Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse. Hi, I am your host, Tristan Johnson, and today is the Monday Discourse, kind of. I don't know if you guys have been following on Twitter, but Mia's internet's out, so we don't have her today, unfortunately. Hopefully her internet, well, she's right now living like pioneer life we're in plague times with no internet, so it's just me today. Sorry. Yeah, and apologies in advance for the boxes. I have to move again. And there's Romeo. Hey, Romeo. So, let me just do my opening spiel. Yeah, today is Monday, January 18th, 2021. I am your host, Tristan. And my streaming schedule is I stream 3 days a week. On Mondays from 12 to 2, I do the Monday Discourse, which is what you're watching now. Typically, Mia Mulder's here, but she is currently not here. She's currently trying to desperately use the last of her cell phone data to look at Twitter with no internet. So that's fun. Then on Tuesday nights, I do a show called Step Back Tonight, which runs from 7 until 9, where it's just me hanging out. Pretty much what I'm going to be doing with you guys today. And then on Fridays, I have The Reactor, which is a stream where people send me stuff and I react to it. So that's life. That's me fun. And also, just to mention like a little bit of programming for upcoming schedules. So if anyone hasn't heard, you probably have heard by now. I'm moving. I mentioned it a few minutes ago. And I now know the date that I am moving as of like literally less than an hour ago. So I'm going to be moving on January 31st. And what that means for the stream is that I'm taking 2 streaming days off. I'm going to be taking the Friday. It's on a Sunday, so I'm going to be taking the Friday and Monday off just because Friday... not only is a step back video should be coming out that day, but also there's, I'm going to be packing and, getting ready and stuff. So I would like some more time. And then on Monday, the day after we move, I don't know if I'm going to have internet. I don't know if my computer is going to be set up, and I would rather not try to panic and rush those things out so that I can get to the stream on Monday. So there won't be a stream on Monday, February 1st either. I go by he, him pronouns. If you want to see my work, you can go to stepbackhistory.com or tristanwon'tshutup.com. No streams next week? No, next week there will be streams. I will be streaming on Monday and Tuesday next week. I just won't be streaming on February 1st or the 29th. And yeah, if you're on Twitch right now, if you have Amazon Prime, I have to remind you that you get 1 free Twitch Prime subscription every month, and not only does it get you those sweet, sweet emotes, but it helps financially for the creators at no extra cost to you. And so that's money you just get to give to a creator that you don't have to pay right away, or you've already paid for. And if you don't give it to an independent creator, you're basically just giving Jeff Bezos more money. So there's that. And so I highly recommend that if you do have Amazon Prime, that you help 1 independent Twitch creator every month. If it's me, I'd be ecstatic, but I just want you to be using it every month if you can. As far as video scheduling stuff, my latest video on Step Back is about the Greensboro Massacre. It should be... It's very fun. It's not fun. It's a very dark video, but it is what it is. Then I have another video coming out about Martin Luther King, which will be releasing right after the stream is done. So the stream ends at 2 o'clock, and then at 2 o'clock I'm releasing the video. It's all ready to go already. As for Tristan Won't Shut Up, the latest video I made is about Star Trek and why you should be watching it. And my next video, I don't know what it's going to be about yet. I haven't started work on it yet. I'll get to it someday. But yeah, Tristan Won't Shut Up is a side project that I'm doing for fun. So it has to, be part of the Chum with all of my other projects that don't have due dates. I've got a lot of due dates this month because I had a Martin Luther King Day video, which is what's coming out today, and I've got a sponsorship for Boxu again that I have to have done by the end of the month. So a lot of things got pushed, and I'm moving, so a lot of things got pushed back into February this month. That's just life. Plus I have to do stuff like make Cold War scripts and stuff, right? So yeah, it'll be fun. Okay. What else do I got to cover? Oh yeah, so if you have questions that you want to get answered, I put I put a thingy here, a link. I probably won't get to it today. I've got a lot of backlog to get through, but if you want to submit a question to a stream, you can do that there. Just remember that the second question is not a either or choice. You can actually choose both. If you don't care what it's going to be, what show it's going to be answered on, you can just click both. Thank you, Lucy, for the well wishes. And last thing is that this channel is doing really, really well. We passed 82,000 subscribers, and now we're climbing towards 83,000 subscribers, which means that there's a lot of new people coming to the channel. So if this is your first time watching a Step Back stream, please make yourself known. Say hello. There are plenty of people in our chat. We have a great community. We've been streaming for years, so please say hello and join on in. Okay. On that note, I think that's everything. So I can actually get started. Let's see what chat's been talking about. Just pop in and say hi. Alrighty. When does the MLK video get to YouTube? I already said it's going to be 2 o'clock. Right when the stream is over. Call your local Mormons to help with the move, and that religion helping people move is a central tenet to their doctrine. No, I think we're okay. Why do you think Biden canceling the pipeline? Is his environmentalism sincere, calculated appeasement to the left, or some sinister reason? I do think that if there is anything that neoliberals and socialists can get together on, now, when it comes to extremes, or how much they're willing to sacrifice to do such, socialists and liberals don't agree. But the acknowledgement that climate change exists does seem to be a thing that has penetrated the liberal elites. It's pretty hard to deny it, and canceling a pipeline is one of the easier things to say you did something about climate change on. I know that it's interesting because that pipeline situation is interesting because there's two, Canada has liberals, and we have a liberal party that is this right-wing party run by Justin Trudeau, and there's a group of people who are really big fans of Justin Trudeau and really big fans of elitist, neoliberal, technocratic Democrats in America who are very excited to see Joe Biden get elected. Hashtag resistance folks. But what's really interesting is that this is a situation in which Biden and Trudeau are at odds. This is a loss for Trudeau. Justin Trudeau's number one thing was to make sure this pipeline gets built. Because Justin Trudeau is basically, has spent billions of taxpayer dollars to artificially inflate our oil industry because he hates this planet we live on and wants us all to die. So this, it's interesting to see people who are like, this is good versus people who are like, this is bad. Because it's like, it's what this represents for Canada, this pipeline going down, is billions of dollars of invested money just completely being erased because basically the company that originally made this pipeline, Keystone XL, has like actually like stopped. Has actually like they decided they didn't want to build the pipeline anymore because it was too much of a political hot potato, and the government just bought the pipeline from them, and it needed to go through America to get to refineries in Texas, and then Biden basically just like cut it off at the border. So now all we have is we have the pipeline that's going to Vancouver to sell more oil to China, which is probably one of the scariest ones because it's going to cause so much climate devastation. And so that's the one that they're building through indigenous Wet'suwet'en territory in the interior of British Columbia. If you've been following the news about that, you probably have heard a little bit about Camp Unistoten and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, this shows this puts Biden to the left of Justin Trudeau on this issue anyway. All right. First time on your streams. My friend introduced me to your channel a few weeks ago and I love your content so much. Oh, thank you, Lucy. I would love to hear the story about how your friend introduced a channel like mine. Like, do you like feeling happy? Oh, well then, if you ever are feeling excessively happy and you need something to properly depress you, there's this channel called Step Back History. Is it really hard to beat the left of Trudeau though? Yeah, you're right. The other fun thing in Canada that's happening, and it's fucking hilarious, is that up until the insurrection on January 6th, Aaron O'Toole, the thumb that is the leader of the human thumb that is the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, has been like trying to play with like Trumpist rhetoric. Like he's been trying to say like, hey, we should be like Canada first, and like trying to like just like playing with like nationalist messaging and Trump like types of statements, but always being like very like you know, at arm's length. And after the insurrection, the Conservative Party put out a statement saying that the Conservative Party is nothing like the Republican Party, and that the Conservative Party embraces diversity and like all this kind of stuff. And it's been responded to by approximately everybody on the internet, pointing to him talking about Canada first shit and going, hey, this you? So Aaron O'Toole is like trying to like really quickly back away from all of his like trying to cozy up to Trump like talking points, and is trying to run away from it as fast as possible. It's very fun. Have you ever thought your history classes were incredibly dry and lacked certain context? Well, that works. Found you a while back when you were guest appearance on NerdSync. Wow. Like the nuclear bombs episode. Man, that was a really fun video. I'm very proud of being involved with that video. How the hell does Canada First rhetoric work in a bilingual, cultural, diverse country? Because the Conservative Party always makes overtures to Anglophone, white, Protestant Canadians. So they have a demographic which is basically me. Well, I'm not Protestant, but like they basically try to go for our version of you know, fascist demagogue, people who are susceptible to fascist demagogues, white privileged men. And yeah, it's a bilingual country and it's a very diverse country, but like hating the French is like part of the conservative identity. Being anti-French is part of like the Conservative Party's status. That's why they get no seats in Quebec. So that's how they do it in a bilingual country, is they just go anti-French because they don't want to be bilingual. They don't want to be diverse. They want a country that's dominated by more human thumbs like Aaron O'Toole. Um, and then Quebec has, and then when you get to like French Canada, Quebec specifically, which is where, you know, it's the only French majority province. It is, it's right wing. It is going more and more down the nationalist route of French nationalism. So that's fun. That's when you mix when they have, because they have the Coalition de Vie Québec, which is this provincial political party that is sort of a right wing nationalist political party. So that's all. It's fun and good and normal. So yeah, but there's a lot of statements that they've used. They've used old stock Canadian, which is like their kind of dog whistle term in Canada for white English settler colonists before we started opening immigration and let all of those people in. You know what I mean? Like we do the same fucking shit here in Canada. We're just much more polite and demure about it. Mia no show. Yeah, her internet's down. Oh man. What else did I see got here? Is that this Canada's mess? Oh my gosh, okay. Here we go. Excited for the MLK video, thank you. Okay. I love how the largest Dutch news platform is literally nothing about Biden canceling the pipeline. Oh boy, fun. He's going to use that as a fig leaf for his policies for the next 4 years. Yeah, like the thing is, if there's anything I can hope out of a Biden administration, my like hope is that there's going to be that, like, if there's anything to be optimistic about with a Biden administration, it's two things. One, Canada, the United States will probably rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, and second, there's probably some ground for everyone to come together and push an extremely watered down version of, but still something when it comes to climate change stuff. So that's like the only political issue that I think that there can be some progress made in this current, like, you know, congressional session / presidency. Do you think the government might go a little too far when trying the rioters? I don't know. Because, like, in some ways they want to come down hard on them because they tried to do a fascist coup of the United States government. But they are white, and they are racists. And white supremacists don't typically get punished when they do crimes like kill people and try to take over the government. So, we'll see. Like, the KKK, like I think I mentioned this earlier, the only white supremacist terrorist group, according to the FBI, is based out of St. Petersburg, Russia. Like, the KKK is not a terrorist group in America, according to the FBI, anyway. But do I see, like, a Patriot Act thing happening? I don't know. I feel like, if anything, what they're going to try and do is use stuff that's already been developed through the Patriot Act to try and crack down on political dissidents. I could see that happening. I don't think... I'm not like a Glenn Greenwald who thinks that this is all a conspiracy and that, like, you know, this is, that this is like, all just the deep state trying to crack down on people and that they're trying to blow up. Like, Glenn Greenwald's whole thing is that this is, like, not a really important incident and that the government's making a big deal out of it so that they can justify doing a whole bunch of crackdowns. But it's like, I don't know, dude. The people who stormed the Capitol building are pretty much in line with, like, what the United States wants for its, like, domestic political goals. So I don't really see that. I don't think they're going to come down that hard. Explains why J.J. McCullough keeps complaining about Quebec as the source of Canada's racism. I mean, Canada does have a racism problem, and Quebec does have, like, Canada or Quebec is like one of the like festering spots for like right-wing extremism, especially when it comes to racism groups and stuff like that. But I would also mention that there are two racist wolves inside Canada. There are two like large breeding grounds for white supremacist fascist terrorism in Canada. One is Quebec and the other is Alberta. Alberta's got groups like the Sons of Odin, Soldiers of Odin, and like it's got the petro supremacist like weird offshoot of the Yellow Jacket movement here in Canada. Like, I don't know. To talk about racism in Canada and then to just point at Quebec, first of all, that's very much like a Anglo-white conservative thing to do. But to not point your finger also at Alberta and the like borderline fascist like uprising that's been growing there since the prices of oil started going down is silly. Is anyone trying to unify Anglophone and Quebecois nationalisms? The closest we ever came to that was probably Pierre Trudeau's government back in the 70s, and it didn't really work. Old stock Canadian, how can that not mean natives? Because it's a reference to, what's it called? Because this is the Conservative Party we're talking about. What about a really shitty public option? Maybe. I doubt it's going to be that impressive, though. When did Glenn say that? He was basically on a panel on the Bad Faith podcast where I was, like, really fucking disappointed in not only Glenn Greenwald, but in Virgil Texas and Brianna Joy Gray for not pushing back on him more, because he basically, they did an interview and they did a panel, and on the panel and interview, they let Glenn Greenwald go completely unchallenged, defending Parler and Gab, two like platforms that have now been directly used to grow and ferment right-wing extremism and terrorism. Then claimed that the lack of response to right-wing fascist terrorism in America on January 6th had to do with ineffective use of resources, and he didn't think it had anything to do with racism or anything like that. And he kind of just outlined that he doesn't think that right-wing extremism or that white supremacy is really a problem in America, and that the problem is the deep state and the growing national security state and like that kind of stuff. Which, like, that's a real fucking bad take, bro, I gotta say. But yeah, ugh. What are some leftist cities/areas in Canada? I don't know if there's anything leftist. There's like some more like liberal bastions. Like, I'd say like Vancouver, downtown Toronto. Those are some like, you know, sort of progressive bastions in Canada. I think that's about it, though. Thoughts on the Green Party? At this point, they're first of all, they have this huge discrepancy between their policies and their branding, because branding wise, people seem to think that they're this like very left wing party when they're actually like kind of center right. But on top of that, because of first past the post, the Green Party is essentially just a consistent spoiler that just ruins everything. The Green Party is probably responsible for the NDP losing more seats than any other political party. And because we have first past the post, the Green Party is one of the things that breaks up the left-wing vote and essentially results in the liberals and conservatives always winning elections. And so, you know, if I were in charge, I would say the Green Party should probably caucus with the NDP or try to become a caucus of the NDP, or just stop existing until we can get proportional representation, because at this point, the need is to overthrow the two right-wing... Like, right now, there are two right-wing political parties in Canada that dominate our politics. The Liberals and the Conservatives. And until their dominance of Canadian politics can be broken and we can finally get rid of first-past-the-post electoral systems and actually move Canada forward into the 20th century and become a democracy, then we're not going to get anywhere on any issue. And everything's just going to keep getting shittier. So... what do I need to do to make you change your channel to Step Drip Productions? I don't get the joke. D76. Apparently one senator had to defend himself with a ceremonial sword he was given while serving in the Marine Corps. Would one of those actually be sharp? I actually don't know. Do you think the Green Party in the U.S. is similarly problematic? They definitely are not far left, but they give an impression of being so. Oh, yeah. What's it called? The Green Party in America is more left-wing than the Green Party in Canada. But the Green Party in Canada, or the Green Party in America, is a huge fucking waste of time. Because they're a political party that needs to be grassroots organizing at the local level. But for some reason, instead, all they do is put all of their effort into a presidential campaign every year. A presidential campaign that goes literally nowhere every single election. And if anything, is just siphons votes. Basically, the Green Party exists to run a presidential campaign that helps the Republican Party every year. That's basically all the Green Party has succeeded in doing in the last several decades that it's been around. If the Green Party wanted to be an actual functional instrument of political change in America, they would be running like local races, they'd be running in state races and state governments, but instead they focus everything on this presidential run, which does nothing but siphon votes away from the Democrats and pushes them towards the Republicans, and makes Republicans win more states. Because they cannot even hope of winning an election until the Electoral College is abolished. And even on top of that, if they were to even have a critical mass of states, all they would do is basically ensure Republican victory in whatever election that comes up. So, yeah. So the Green Party does have a similar role in American politics in that they are accidental instruments assisting the right, but that's it. Why do you think it's so hard to get people behind the abolish landlords movement? All the mainstream left parties are saying affordable and rent control. Because the commodification of housing is a pretty big part of a lot of people's lives. Like, abolishing landlords in like if you were to abolish landlords in Canada or America, you would be very fundamentally changing society in a very big way. And you would also do the thing is, like, it's a good thing to do. I just want to preface, this is a good, like, it would be good to do something like that. If there was no more, if all rental properties were replaced with public housing in, like, Canada, for example, the price of houses would go way, way down. Which, like, would be great. I would love if that happened. It would also financially destroy me because, as somebody who has, like, their money tied up in a mortgage, it would be financially devastating to me. Because then I'd be $400,000 something in debt, and with a worthless house that would have, like, depreciated by, like, a huge percentage. And I think that a lot of times why people use, like, weasel words is because, like, not as many people would see the positive side of them losing their life savings, and a lot of other people. There are a lot of people out there who own homes that the decommodification of housing would directly hurt. And unless there is a program to help those people out or to transition to getting out of rent or are getting rid of landlords, you're going to cause a lot of people to lose their shirts. And maybe that's necessary, but that is part of that is the reason why people, even in the mainstream left, don't like want to go all fucking Mao Zedong on landlords. What are my thoughts on posthumanism? Is that like, are you talking about like transhumanism, or is this like something like a humanist branch of philosophy or something like that I don't understand? Is hustle culture cancerous? Oh, fuck yeah, it is. There's a really great video by Catherine. I don't remember what her YouTube channel is. I think her YouTube channel might just be called Catherine. And she did a video on hustle culture and productivity and why it's killing us. And like, yeah, it's pretty good. What's the Canadian opinion on Cans UK? Is it looked upon positively, or do Canadians see the crazy white supremacist idea that it is? There are very few Canadians who even have heard of it. It's not even a thing we're talking about here in this country. The few that are talking about it are conservatives. So there's either conservatives who like white supremacy, so they're embracing it, or there's people who haven't heard of it. Those are basically the two positions, the two genders of positions here. Hustle culture? Hustle culture is sort of our world right now, where millennials, in order to survive, are encouraged to essentially be working constantly and always trying to start businesses, and the idea that you need to monetize all of your hobbies, and that if you aren't using all of your free time to trying to start businesses and make more income, then you deserve it. Like, if you just have a job you go to 40 hours a week and then you go home and chill out and go to bed, that's lazy now. Now you have to work 40 hours a week, then go home and work on your side hustle, so that you can make a bit more money to cover the bills, so that someday that'll take off and you'll just get rich somehow. That's hustle culture. It's basically this, like, it feels like a very millennial response to the economic crises we're in. You have to monetize everything you do. Yeah. The thing is, like, I even am stuck with that. Like, I made videos on the internet and now it's my job. But like, there was a time where I was, working a full-time job and then coming home and making step back videos. And then, there was a time when I started getting into Dungeons and Dragons where I was like, oh, I should probably do some sort of D&D thing on my platforms because it would be really fun. And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to monetize every single hobby I get into. And so I made the intentional choice to not monetize my D&D related stuff, because it's just a thing that I do with my friends. And I needed something that was just a thing I did for fun and creative outlet, and as a creative outlet, and not as a thing I did for money. Specifically because I realized I was falling into that kind of trap. Okay. This is a good question. How does the left party work how would a left party work in the US, and how would they be able to win elections? I think that there's a couple angles to go down. The first one would be the first is that American politics really needs to work from the ground up. The problem with American politics is that it's so top heavy when it comes to like how it's covered in the press. And the problem is that every step up you work through the American government, you get you need a lot more money, and you need a much larger base of support in a country that is very locked into a two-party system. So there's two strategies. There's the pyramid approach, which is that you need to, if you want to start an effective third-party movement, you have to start at the easiest place where you can make inroads and get elected in positions that would actually be able to make changes. That does not mean running for president when you have like less than 2% of the popular vote, because that's what we like to call just being a spoiler candidate. What you need to do is run like at the absolute lowest levels of government. And in America, for a leftist party, there's a lot of places where you could do that, because there is a shit ton of like this is the thing people don't talk about. There's a whole bunch. America elects so many more positions than other countries. They elect coroners. They elect mosquito control officers. They elect all these positions, and a lot of them are completely uncompetitive. Like, for example, like in the South, there's a lot of like they elect their sheriffs, which are sort of like local law enforcement heads. I don't know why it's a political position, but it is. And almost all of them get elected as Republicans, and they run in uncontested elections. And like, I do think that there are some places that would be an area of the United States where Democrats might not do well, but like a grassroots leftist party would actually be able to work it through. And I think that running in these uncompetitive elections, can you imagine what a leftist sheriff would be able to do? If anything, they'd be able to do a whole lot by just not doing anything. You know? Thought all the U.S. elected sheriffs. Yes, but I'm talking about how sheriffs in the South are elected in pretty uncompetitive elections. And if there is an area where I do think that the Democrats are long-term just completely losing their foothold, and do have a bit of an area where an actual left-wing party could step in and have some successes in the American South. So voting. So starting some local, like, thing is, if you run like leftist candidates, DSA candidates for sheriff, for county clerk, for those kinds of positions, people are more likely to support your candidacy, because they know that by like voting for you, they're not electing like the fascist who's running for president. And once you've actually like built a base of support, you move up through state governments and local governments and things like that. This is what the neoconservatives did to take over the Republican Party and take over American politics. So that's like the pyramid approach, starting at the bottom, building and moving your way up. The other thing to look into would be to take over the Democratic Party, which is like an ongoing effort. You've got, squad members who, to differing degrees, are more left-wing than the Democratic base, or the Democratic Party center of gravity has been in decades. Which, like, yeah, you got Jimmy Dore whining that it's not fast enough, or it's not big enough, but like, it's huge compared to where it's been. Hey, thank you. So you move your way up from there. So building like the base of Justice Democrats and stuff like that would be a smart idea. And especially because in America, their federal politics are such a media circus that, like, to get media attention on left-wing ideas and mainstreaming them will require getting some left-wing people into the Democratic Party and being, influential, which is already starting to happen and moving in a positive direction. You combine that with moving those ideas to local politics, and you can already see that you can see some really big changes start to happen. It's a slow process, but to overthrow two political parties which have dominated American politics since the 1850s, you kind of have to go slow. 1860s, sorry, not 1850s. So those are the two things that I would go for. Yeah, running for sheriff with the slogan "Fuck the police" would be great. How do American poverty rates in the 1960s compare to today? Your Martin Luther King made me wonder about that. It's mixed. Extreme poverty, like people who are like literally starving, is a little bit lower. But for the most part, income inequality is so stark, and also poverty rates have been going up. Poverty looks a lot more different than it did in the past. There was a lot, like in in the 1960s, poverty was a lot more, like the racial discrepancies were a lot bigger, and poverty was a lot more rural and less urban. But today, poverty is now everywhere. It's spread out pretty much everywhere. There's still a whole lot of rural poverty, and we don't really talk about rural poverty that much, but there's also just not that many rural people anymore. There's a lot fewer of them than there were today. So if you were to like take like a census of poor people in like the 1960s, there'd be a lot more people living in rural areas, because in America in 1960s, a lot more people lived in rural areas than they do today. On top of that, the racial discrepancy, while still existing in America today, has gone down, and the racial diversity of America has gone up. So now, people living in poverty in America, like while in the 1960s you'd probably primarily focus on like, you know, black like sharecroppers in the South, today you wouldn't be able to talk about poverty in America without talking about like people who are going into poverty in like the Midwest Rust Belt area, and especially talking about undocumented workers who get paid below minimum wage to do like agricultural labor. Like all that stuff has to play into it now. Like the thing is that a big term, we're not talking about how America's emptying out really, and that there are states that are there are states now that have population densities so low that if they were territories today, they would not have a population density high enough to be considered for statehood, because you have to have a population density of higher than one person per square mile to qualify to become a state. And there are some states like Wyoming and Montana and stuff where that's not the case anymore, because everybody's moving out of those regions and moving to the coasts. And as that keeps happening, the Electoral College keeps getting less and less democratic, because even though these states have like no people in them, they're still given a disproportionate amount of representation in government. Yeah. Healthcare poverty is pretty big. That is true. Healthcare expenses is the number one source of bankruptcy in America. But then also, like, recently moved to Wyoming. I love Wyoming. I've been there before. If I remember, I have been to Yellowstone Park, which is in Wyoming. I've been to... Here's the thing. I don't talk about this. I went on a lot of road trips as a kid. My parents really liked doing road trips. So, and this is probably the reason why I like history and why I like American history, is I've seen almost the entire United States. There are only a handful of American states I have not been to. And so I have been to Wyoming. Can you go to Arizona? I went to Arizona last time I went to Arizona was in 2002, but I have been to Arizona. We went to, God, what did I see in Arizona? I mean, the biggest thing I think I saw was, oh man, just want to make sure I got this right. Yeah, I've been to the Grand Canyon, so I know I've been to Arizona. My parents are not historians. I said that my parents are interested in history, but they're not historians. My dad is a, like, programmer, and my mom is, like, works in payroll, like, works for the government. If I went to Yellowstone, I'd be super anxious about it erupting while I was there. Well, I mean, the chances are still very low. When I went to Yellowstone, the coolest thing about Yellowstone is that it's so seismic or geologically active. So you do see cool shit. Like, there's a thing called the Painted Pots, which is like where the minerals and the volcanic stuff seeps into this place where there's this like kind of like a muddy, marshy place that's full of like it's volcanic, so it's like bubbling and it's boiling hot, but all of the mud is like different colors and they swirl together. It's pretty cool. Then there's also Old Faithful, the geyser that goes off like every 90 minutes or whatever on time. It's pretty cool. I also remember Yellowstone because our car had to stop. We were stuck in a traffic jam because a herd of bison were crossing the highway. And I got some really cool pictures. And my dad fucking wanted to kill me because I actually got out of the car to take pictures of the bison, which he did not appreciate. Thank you, Zane, for the super chat. Have I been to South Carolina? Yes, I have been to South Carolina. I can't tell you what I did in South Carolina, but I know I've been there. My parents love the Carolinas. Because I know that I don't think I've been to Savannah. I have been to Atlanta several times. Oh, that's Georgia. And so is Savannah. I have been to Charleston, so that's probably where I've been. And Myrtle Beach. Yeah. It's been a while, because I haven't gone on a road trip with my parents in over a decade now, but I did go to Gettysburg, yes. So I have been to Pennsylvania as well. I've been to Gettysburg like 3 times, I think, in my life. Have I been to Selma, Alabama? I don't think so. I only went through Alabama once in 2009, and we were going to New Orleans, and we drove through Alabama. We did stop in Birmingham, and we went to go see the Civil Rights Museum there. I think we stopped to eat, but that's about it. I've been to Alabama, but I haven't spent that much time in Alabama. It was fun. We got, what was that, an Alabama Slammer? Is that what it's called? What was that? That's the cocktail, right? Alabama Slammer? Yeah, I had an Alabama Slammer when I was there. At like a Denny's in Alabama or something like that. Have I been to Washington or California? I have been to California. I've been to California several times. I go to VidCon every year, which is in Anaheim. But I have never been to Washington or Oregon. Those are on my list of states I have not been to. It's like Washington, Oregon, and Alaska, Hawaii, and Arkansas. I think those are the states I haven't been to. I feel like there's one more that I'm not thinking of, but like maybe Wisconsin. I think I might not have been to Wisconsin, but the rest of them I think I've been to. I can't think of a time I've been to Wisconsin. I don't think I've been to Wisconsin. What's my favorite country outside Canada that I've been to? Oh, Mexico. I've been to Mexico several times, and I love Mexico. I love Mexico City. I've been to Mexico City once. I went in 2011, around this time, actually. And it was so fun. Mexico City is one of the coolest cities I've ever been to. And I love the look of it. I love that, like, there's just, like, colorful art everywhere. I love the history. Oh, my God. Love the history. I went to, like the surrounding area. I went to Teotihuacan. I went to the Basilica of the Virgin of Guadalupe. I went to the Cathedral of Mexico and the President's Palace and the ruins of the Templo Mayor. Like, oh, shit. Have I been to Cuba? I have not been to Cuba. Closest I've ever been is I've been to the Dominican Republic, but I have not been to Cuba. I went to the Dominican Republic for my honeymoon. Have I ever been to Australia? No. What's it called? I haven't been to that many countries, but the country, I haven't been to that many countries, but I have seen a whole lot of Canada and the United States. So outside of Canada and the U.S., I've been to the Dominican Republic, Mexico, the U.K., and France. That's all the countries I've been to. I have spent out of those the countries I've visited the most are Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Would I consider going to a socialist state? Sure. Kelly can't go to Cuba, right? Yes, she can. She's a Canadian citizen as well. All she would just need to do is not bring her U.S. passport. Honestly, like, the thing is, like, if like there was like official stuff, it might have caused some trouble, but we'll see. I'm getting a whole lot of messages. I should probably put this on mute for a little bit. Yeah. Bunch of business stuff happening. Have I ever been to Kansas State or Kansas City, Missouri? I've been to both. I've been to Kansas City. One of my wife's friends lives in Kansas City, and I went to Kansas City when she had babies to go see the babies. So I have been to Kansas City. And while we were there, it did involve going to the Kansas side of Kansas City. So I have been to Kansas as well. Hope you enjoyed your time here on Turf Island. Yeah, I went to the UK in 2007. I spent most of my time in London. I only ventured out of London to go to Stonehenge. Which country would you want to visit after COVID ends? I want to go back to Mexico. I really want to go back to Mexico after COVID ends. After like having a shitty winter here, I just want to like go somewhere where I can be outside all day and enjoy cheap liquor and sunshine and stuff. So I probably want to go down to the Yucatan or something like that. And also, I probably want to go to France because I know I was supposed to go to France. I was supposed to go to France I was supposed to do basically France and the UK again in 2020. We were supposed to go on a trip at the end of March of 2020, but obviously that didn't happen. So here we are. I was actually going to go see Ollie do his vampire play. I was going to go see Dracula, and I was going to meet up with Mia. It was going to be a whole thing, but then COVID killed it. Would I ever challenge the travel to the DPRK or China? Yeah, I would go to either of them. It'd be quite a unique experience. China, like, China is would be easy to do, or easier to do. As a tourist, getting into the DPRK is very difficult. I have a friend who went, and it is to get a visa to go to the DPRK is very tough. But if I could do it, I mean, shit, yeah, like I would like just to see things that have never been seen before would be kind of amazing, or not never seen before, but like very few people get to see North Korea. So if I had the opportunity, I would totally go. I remember another stream you said I most wanted trip as a time traveler. I think there's still some ruins near Mexico City. Yeah, there's Teotihuacan, which is like the remnants of the Teotihuacanos who built a bunch of stuff. What is the DPRK? It's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It's North Korea. But to go to North Korea, because I have one friend who actually went to North Korea, and to do so, he had to get a visa. And how he got his visa, he had to work in China for like a year. He was like an English teacher in China, so he had to have a year working in China, and then he had to basically like sweet talk to apply for a tourist visa to North Korea, which like to go there you have to take like there's like one flight that goes in like once a month, and then when you get there you are basically on a guided tour the entire time you're there. But like, I want to see it like it's like a little time capsule of like Stalinist era kind of Soviet type governments. Be pretty cool. Another place I'd really like to travel, it's high on my list anyway, is I want to go to India pretty badly. I'd like to see Goa. That'd be a pretty cool city to check out. It's weird to think that Stonehenge was just a weird thing in a field from us' existence. Like, not far from me, there's a Roman amphitheater that was used as a trash pit in the Middle Ages. Oh, boy. The only thing about going to North Korea or China is that, or India, actually, is that, like, it's pretty common for, like, if, like, fat people travel to these countries, for them to just be, like, gawked at as, like, weird aberrations. And I kind of, like, I'm kind of not super into, like, traveling to these countries where, like, I'll just be, like, stared at and treated kind of weirdly for it, so that part I'm not, like, super thrilled about, but, you know, it is what it is. Is there a language issue with language barriers in places like France, India, Mexico? India, a lot of people speak English. France, I speak French, so it's usually fine. Mexico, Kelly and I both speak Spanish to some degree, so we can usually get by pretty well. I'll never go to India. All Israelis go to India. It's a cliche here. Oh boy. Yeah. Fat phobia is very normalized in China and in Japan and in South Korea. So I would not be... There's a lot of not so great experiences of being someone who looks like me who travels to East Asia specifically. So I'll have to... I have lost some weight since living in London, but it's still a long ways to go, right? So let's see, what do we got for questions? First question I got here is from Aiden that says, is there going to be a civil war in the U.S.? In some ways, it feels like we're forever away from civil war. Like, civil war in the U.S. would require a lot of things to go wrong in a very short amount of time. And, like... I don't, like, the thing about civil wars is that it's going to be like a lot of things, which is, like... It's going to feel like it's impossible until it started happening already. And... I think that even if America wasn't a civil war, we would probably not even call it a civil war. It would probably be something more like, I'm reading Parable of the Sower right now, which I think is like more close to like what would happen in America, which is just that through constant cuts and deregulation and privatization, that like America just kind of ceases to really be a functioning country. And then different factions sort of just start popping up and, running places. And that sort of becomes an issue. I'll buy you a beer if you're ever rich and intimate ends. I live in London, Ontario. But if I am in London, I will definitely try to do a meetup of some kind. Definitely. I'm still taken aback every time Tristan says he was living in London. Yeah, this happens a lot to people who live in London. It's like it's kind of a meme here. To the point where there was one point where I was kind of thinking of making a podcast about London. And I was going to call it The Other London, and that would have been the name of it, so... Can you go over the Parable of the Sower? I haven't finished it. I'm almost done. But it's a book by Octavia Butler, and it's a novel about... it takes place in like the kind of mid-2020s. And in this present, or in the book, the main thing about 2020's America is that like kind of the decay of neoliberalism. So like the cuts to like I made this statement on on Tristan Won't Shut Up a few months ago, where I said that like the way that we approach government these days is that like on a long enough time scale, the only government organizations that will get any funding whatsoever are going to be police and the military. And essentially, Parable of the Sower takes place in like I think it starts in 2024, and as where I am, the book is in 2027. And it takes place in basically in America where the government has either privatized or completely given up on huge swaths of people. And climate change has started to make the environmental hazards and natural resources very scarce. And so the story in that future, people are essentially communities are trying to scrape onto some form of existence, some sort of life. And it's very chaotic, and there's lots of random violence. The police are essentially a gang, like today. But like the police are, like if somebody's murdered, like there's a scene in the book where the main character's entire like hometown is burned to the ground, and it's being raided by like people who are like looting stuff because everyone's so desperate for things that and then they're like, why don't you call the police? And they're like, all the police would do is come here and arrest the people looting. That's it. They wouldn't catch anybody who actually did this or murdered or burned down the town or anything like that. So that's basically the Parable of the Sower. It's the beginning of something called the Earthseed series, but I know that Octavia Butler died kind of young, so I don't know if the book series is ever finished. But I'm enjoying it quite a bit, and I was curious about your thoughts on Lilith's Brood. I have not read Lilith's Brood. This is the first Octavia Butler novel I've read, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. So I'll probably read more. But so far, like, it's a very, like, I was recommended Parable of the Sower because I was told that it's like, it's commonly on lists of like anarchist science fiction, and it is very anarchist in its like approach to life in the world, and I think it's really good. She didn't finish the third book. Shit. But yeah, I really like Octavia Butler's writing style. And so, yeah, pretty good. What is Octavian? No, it's Octavia. Octavia Butler. She was a science fiction author who wrote a bunch of books that are really good. Or at least one of them is really good. So, yeah. What do I think about Brazil's situation in general? I don't know what to say about Brazil's situation right now. I know COVID's really bad. I know that transphobia is really bad. I know that Brazil's run by like a far-right semi-dictator who wants to get rid of democracy. He's like publicly stated that he wants to end democracy. So, is the culture also on those lists? I can't remember, honestly. Would you ever consider reading Saul Goodman's post-anarchist theory? I don't know. Saul Goodman? Like, Better Call Saul? Thing is, at this point, like, I don't know. My current, like, Saul Newman. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I don't even know who that is, so. Like currently once this book is done, I'm probably going to end up picking up either Abaddon's Gate, which I think is the next book in the Expanse series that I need to be reading. Or I think I'm going to check out the Witcher books at some point. That was the thing I wanted to read this year. When will reactor suggestion be purged from the list? I now do it a month after they've been submitted, so hopefully that makes sense. Somebody assessed Nancy Pelosi been in charge for the last 2 years. What do you think would have happened in 2020? I think that things would be less bad, honestly. I think like anybody, I think a leader of the United States who takes the pandemic even somewhat seriously would handle it better than Trump did. I still think America would be one of the worst off countries, if not the worst off country. But Trump would not have like actively made not doing basic things to prevent the spread of the disease a political statement and turn America into a fucking hellscape. Are you worried of the German election this year? I don't know too much about the details of it, but the fact that the European Union the fate of the European Union rests on it, and I don't know who's really running at this point, so I don't know. What would happen in 2020 with the election? I have no idea. There's so many things that could have happened between 2018 and 2020. Do you think millennials would be better off helping each other instead of adopting hustle culture? Yes. For real. We as a society need to severely change our like everybody out for themselves mentality. Did you hear that Nicaragua's having another election this year? Yeah. Ortega's is a complicated situation with him, isn't it? I think the politics category is a bit unfitting. Maybe chatting is better. Hassan Abi does that too. Depends on what your definition of. I don't know. The Roman historical novel I'm reading at the moment has a teenage slave girl sold to this brothel as one of the POV characters. Think it's possible for a cis straight man to write a story like that and not have it be problematic? I think it's possible. You just have to be very considerate and do research. Like, I don't think people are, like, never right about people who aren't exactly like you. It's just that doing it with some consideration for the point of view of the people who are in that circumstance is important, and just kind of going about it with no consideration of or research or things like that is pretty bad. I hear you're an anarchist. Sorry for spelling. Are you a market anarchist or some sort of... I am a anarcho-communist, so I am very much a not a market anarchist. I don't think market anarchists are a thing. I think that market anarchists are just fascists who are embarrassed to say they are. Hence why so many anarcho-capitalists have become libertarians who then became fascists. Like, it seems to be quite a pipeline. Can you share that list of journalists you follow on Twitter? Sure. I can do that. Right now, I think I have a private, but I can make it public. Oh, no, it's not private. Cool. All right. Yeah, here's my Twitter list of journalists that I follow. Could market anarchists refer to mutualists? Yeah, if you're talking about market anarchists, that's a different thing. Do you have any tips for reader's block issues? Yeah, audiobooks is a good way to start. To me, reading takes a lot of focused energy, and that's not a thing I have a whole lot of. Audiobooks, like, even at times where I'm not really good at, like, reading, audiobooks help me go from 0 to 1 at least. So I'm always moving forward. I'm very much about momentum, and as long as I'm making progress on books, no matter how I'm actually making progress, that's the way to do it. Yeah. And a lot of libraries have audiobooks that you can rent for free. That's how I get all of my audiobooks. Libraries are one of the more communist things that, like, our societies do right now. And so I just love that they exist as a concept, because, you know, you could not you would not be able to sell the idea of libraries in our current culture. Anarcho-syndicalist here, pistols at dawn, sir. All right, I wasn't talking about... When people say market anarchists, the first thing that comes to mind to me are anarcho-capitalists. But, yeah, I was wrong. Yeah, there are mutualists and people who believe in sort of like a market socialist type of anarchist society. I don't think that that's like the best way to manage things, but I respect that it's a position held by people who aren't weird fucking evil people like anarcho-capitalists. I don't know if you know about a streamer called Vosh. Oh god. We do not talk about him here. Not a fan myself. Okay. So I did that one. Thoughts on Nikki Ashton getting removed from her critic position for traveling out of Canada during the holidays? I've already answered this one a few times. All right. Might be the fact that my country is today deciding whether or not to give power or coalition the right fascist parties and find less so sympathetic towards way anti-capitalist ideology is better. Yeah, anti-capitalism is the trick. Oh man. There's some, yeah, I'm not gonna, I don't want to start shit. So every time I give my opinion on Vosh, I get DMs from friends who hate me or who are mad that saying that I say bad things about him, and so I just stopped. It's not worth it. As long as he's converting fascists, this is the thing, is I don't really think he's doing that, but okay. Would you consider anybody to the left of Peter Kropotkin in a theoretical impossibility? I don't know. I don't see politics like on a Cartesian plane like that, really. I'm creating conflict in the left. Yeah, I get that a lot. Okay. Have you seen people victim blaming the Rohingya people, like accusing them of rape and being illegal Bengali immigrants? Yeah, that was sort of the excuse that people made to justify the genocide of the Rohingya people that was done. There was an Islamophobic genocide done against the Rohingya. I'm canceled now? Oh boy. Let's just say this. At some point, I'm going to address my feelings about Vosh. Okay? I'm probably not going to name him by name, but I do have an intention on making a step back video about the Strasser brothers and about the sort of phenomenon of socialists becoming fascists in the 1930s and 40s and what kinds of things contributed to that. And that sort of will be in the area of my feelings on why I find Vosh's rhetoric and the surprisingly large fan base he has quite concerning. All right. What are your thoughts on Al Jazeera and its channel AJ+? I don't watch it regularly myself, but Al Jazeera usually does pretty good journalism. Given he was born in the 1840s, did Kropotkin have any social views that would be really bad today? Maybe, probably. I just don't know anything about it. I'm probably gonna make a Kropotkin video at some point too. That was a video I was gonna make for Christmas this year or last year, and I didn't. I ended up not doing it because the White Power series became overwhelmingly popular. It's not going to be about Vosh. It's just like, I'm just saying I'm going to make a video about a phenomenon that is happening in today's left, especially the post-2020 election left. And while I won't talk about him, my feelings about the issues of what's called red-brownism apply to the way that he approaches political rhetoric. Specifically, issues having to deal with the debate culture that's not based on debate. It's based on dominance politics over others. The sort of very, the very violent, masculine-centric approach to political discourse that is based around destroying and defiling and destroying their asses with facts and logic type political discourse is extremely dangerous. And people who are coaxed into becoming socialists because they see big man dominate others in a debate can very easily be coaxed into becoming fascists again if somebody with a similar powerful personality does so, because it is a political rhetoric not based off of empathy and kindness and mutual understanding, but based on dominance and defeating and destruction. And the same kind of shit happened with a bunch of revolutionary socialists and communists in Europe who found themselves not getting the revolution that they wanted because they had to deal with all these effeminate intellectuals who just want to talk about the feelings of marginalized people, and a lot of them then became the voter base of like the National Socialist Party and like the fascists in Italy and stuff. Like Benito Mussolini, exactly. And I think that there's bigger people to criticize in this space than Vosh, and I think that the people that are more interesting to look at as like sort of the red browning of leftist discourse that's going to be happening is people like Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, and Tulsi Gabbard. And that sort of area of the internet left. All right. What's your favorite so bad it's funny bit of red baiting? I'm personally fond of the old paper towels ad that said if employers don't use their towels, your employees will become communists. Oh boy. Don't remember that one. I mean, the one saying that the civil rights movement is socialism is a little rich, but okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Caleb Mopen would definitely fit on that. What's your take on Tulsi right now? I think Tulsi's a fascist. I think that, I know that sounds like, I try not to say that in reference to everybody. I try not to think that I try to be like, the far right and totalitarians are different things. But I think that Tulsi Gabbard does fit a lot of the definitions of fascism. And that she tries to cozy up to mass murdering dictators and Islamophobic demagogues And I really don't like that. And I fucking find that, like, that is, like, very fucking scary shit. And the fact that that she has her like her stands in the left, and it's like all of the scariest people on the left. It's like Glenn Greenwald, it's like Jimmy Dore, it's, you know. Remember the Ism Juice short film? Yeah, oh man. There's so much American culture to pick apart in that. The whole idea that America is just like unideological, which is like so joke. Fascist? Explain. Sure. She cozies up with a lot of nationalist people. Specifically, she has ties with Narendra Modi, who is a Hindu nationalist based out of India, who is trying to essentially long-term work up to a genocide of Indian Muslims. He oversaw basically a pogrom against Muslims when he was a local governor, and now as prime minister of the country has been extensively cracking down on the religious freedoms of Muslims. Then her other close buddy is fucking Bashar al-Assad, a man who, despite all the conspiracy theorists and false flag people on the internet, used sarin gas on his own fucking people in order to maintain power. In order to stay in power, he used gas warfare on children and civilians because he wanted to defeat the Free Syrian Army. Another friend of Tulsi Gabbard is probably the most fascist television host of our modern era, which is Tucker Carlson, and also just recently tried to pass legislation that was explicitly transphobic. So the fact that she has all these close connections with dictators and people who use nationalism and the desire to use mass violence, in her case specifically against Muslims, is a pretty big part of why I have, like, she's extremely terrifying. And the fact that the thing is, like, fascism doesn't necessarily have to be like a pro-capitalism ideology. In many ways, fascism can be sold as an anti-capitalist ideology when it is. And it's the idea of, it's a hyper-nationalist ideology about us versus them, and like making a group that needs to be attacked. This is sort of why, like, sometimes fascists call themselves like third way politics, and this is definitely part of it. Nazbols, yeah, Nazbols sort of fit this as well too. How come Sargon is better at getting around Twitter bans than Trump? I don't know. Probably just the lack of attention. And here's the thing. There's all people who I know I talk to people who have studied third positionism. That's what it's called. Yeah. I've talked to people who study the far right and study like fascists and Nazis as part of their like career work. And one of the things that they do is they've said that in the wake of Joe Biden's victory and the Donald Trump defeat, they're feeling rather like they've lost. And there's a lot of people in the fascist part of the internet that think that the next step for like white supremacists and stuff like that is to feed on the frustration of Bernie Sanders supporters who are completely disillusioned with mainstream politics, and they think that these people are prime candidates for being absorbed into fascist movements. And I do think that the place where they are going to get a lot of ground is in like the Tulsi Gabbard, Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald part of the left. And so while like, you know, this is all in this, they're not making direct connections at this point. I do think that it's definitely an area that we should be paying attention to. anybody who considers themselves left-wing and doesn't think about internationalism and doesn't think about and complains about identity politics and woke scolds, those are the people who are going to be high on the list for fascist recruitment, and we should be watching out for that. Chapo fit that profile? I don't think so. I mean, I can't speak for the podcast in general. I think that that's a bit more nuanced. Typically, though, they don't. I don't see them targeting like people who are marginalized, and I don't see them talking about like how America needs to focus on its own economy and there's something. By your logic, Biden is also a fascist. I wouldn't say so. No. Biden sucks, but he's not a fascist. He doesn't have like this overarching nationalist identity that is like that needs to that is like fundamentally in conflict with all other national identities. Some Chapo fans, like the stupid poll kind, are definitely susceptible to this. Yeah, stupid poll is like the fucking peak of like people on the left who are going to be picked up by this movement for sure. Where does that put people like Vosh Hassan and Xander Hall? I don't know anything about Xander Hall. I will, except that he has a sex cult or something. But I think that I do think that is a space in the online left that needs to be discussed needs to be monitored for fascist infiltration, because when your idea of left-wing politics is still based on domination and not based on is based on a rejection of internationalism, politics of masculine dominance, and ideation of violence, you just need to have all of that toxic behavior pointed in a different direction, and all of a sudden you're goose stepping. So those are like, because it's not a politics based on things like, the left should be based on, which is compassion, empathy, and international collectivism. But that's not where we are. Yeah. Obviously, my thoughts need to be developed on this a little bit more, and when I make this video on Strasser and stuff, I hope to read a whole lot of books, because I think this is a really important topic for 2021 specifically, and I think that it's going to be an important subject to bring up. And I also know that if I don't, come at this with like that no matter what I do, I'm gonna get hated by a whole lot of people. I'm gonna be called a woke scold. I'm gonna be called a liberal, and I'm going to be probably like, if somebody like Vosh picks it up, I'll probably be attacked and given death threats and doxxed and like all that kind of stuff. So I have to be like ready for like all of that shit. And so I have to make sure that what I'm doing is absolutely top tier necessary and has every single I dotted and T crossed and everything, you know? You look like Joss Monstel, the principal, and Billy Madison. Okay. I don't know who that is. I haven't seen Billy Madison in like 20 years. I'm guessing it's some ugly guy, so that, yeah, okay. Oh yeah, it's him. It's, what's it called? It's Dennis Nedry. I've gotten that one before. Some new material. At least you used his real name. Anyways, last year SVU did a episode about immigration. At one point, you see an Irish woman in iced. I already answered this one. Suppose a 15-year-old used the N-word in an online video, then 3 to 4 years later, you send the video to the university replying. I already answered this one. Who'd you vote for in an election where the candidates were Tulsi Gabbard and Gerald Ford? Probably Gerald Ford, honestly. Tulsi Gabbard was the only person who winning the primary would have scared me more than Donald Trump, which says a lot. Don't worry, internet. I'm currently working on my waistline, and in a few, it'll take me like a year or two, but then I can be a normal weight and people can treat me like a human. It'll be really nice. The internet will, they'll have to find other things to attack me for in the comments. How many times do you think Trump picks up his phone and then remembers and throws it down? So it makes me think that Trump probably has a Twitter account that he's using just to watch Twitter. My guess. I think it'd be useful for... The thing is, like, I'm not against the concept of debate. It's, like, debates and discussions are important. They're necessary. They're very good for society. It's just that debates have turned into nothing that even approaches an actual debate. It's like, oh man, these two people are gonna... It's like fucking WWE. It's like, these people are gonna go against each other. Who's gonna destroy the other with their facts and logic? And it's like, not about facts and logic, but it's who can basically rhetorically outmaneuver somebody in like an Angry Man contest. And it's like, I don't fucking care, okay? Like, those kinds of debates are pointless. That's just them. It's just them talking past each other. I don't care. That's not a useful conversation. That's just saying, hey, person who is fashy, come on my platform and say your ideas to my debate, to my entire audience. But like, I've never heard like, okay, we're going to have a debate about this topic and we're going to have rounds and discussions and we're going to have two people debating each other who have differing opinions, but both of them are reasonable. Like, I would never go on a debate where it's like, are trans people human? Yes or no? Because that's not a debatable position. That's like, so, and also just debate somebody like blank, like no topic, no issue, nothing to like, I don't know. It's like, it's the most unproductive thing. And if people are literally leaving fascism a nationalistic death cult because of a debate, I worry that their politics are not going to be based on, justice and equality for all, and it's just going to be sort of a personality cult type thing. What's your opinion on the gray zone in their reporting? I actually don't know what the gray zone is. Okay. What are your thoughts on using the 25th Amendment to remove wannabe supreme fascist ruler Trump? I feel like the third article of the 14th Amendment provides a stronger case, but only when paired with impeachment. Ideally, the cabinet and Pence would use the 25th and would also be impeached. Yeah, for some reason I thought that the 25th Amendment was for, if the president has a stroke. Or if the president has a heart attack. I think the 25th Amendment was made when Eisenhower had a heart attack in the White House. And they realized they didn't have a law in the books for, what happens if the president is, the president has a heart attack. The vice president can't become president. The 25th was for Woodrow Wilson. Yeah, Woodrow Wilson had a stroke in office, and basically his wife ran the country for a year. So but I mean, I would be for using any legal mechanism to get Trump out of office, if only to just make the statement that his type of politics is bad and should be banished away forever. But I don't think that's going to happen. For debate comment for the gray zone? Oh, okay. Why can't we have polite debate about your right to exist? I hate people who assume how calm you are. Yeah, oh man. There's a great comic that's that kind of talks about that I always point out, where it's a very angry leftist and a calm Hitler, and the angry person's just brah, humans should have rights, and this guy's I just want to set up an ethno-state and kill all the Jews, but that's just my opinion, and, you're entitled to your opinion. I don't know why you're so angry about this. And it's fucking wraps up the way that we think about debate perfectly, because in the end, the person who gets the least mad is usually considered the person who won, because debates aren't, especially these kinds of debates, these ones on the internet, they're not about who actually did well. It's about who projected strength better. It's how Donald Trump walked away with all of those debates. Is that he was wrong all the time, but he walked away in a stronger position because he was able to project strength more. And I think if you find that kind of politics attractive, you're vulnerable. You're a vulnerable type of person, and at least we should be keeping our eyes on that kind of politics. How does economical crisis differ from the ones of the past? This one? The one we're in now? I mean, we've never had I think that the biggest thing that 2020 showed, that the economic crisis, I mean, it's always been true, but this one put it in the most stark relief, which is that the connection between there's a big disconnect between the power of the financial class and how well people are doing. Because for a long time, kind of a liberal idea of figuring out how healthy the economy is at any given moment is how well stock markets are doing. But 2020 was a year where the stock market did reasonably well, while people were I think something like 900,000 people are on unemployment, or applied for unemployment for the first time or something in in 2020, which is or not in 2020. It was way more than that in 2020, but I think in the last month or so. And that is really, really fucking scary. Like, because if all of the measures of whether or not an economy is successful is GDP and how well the stock market's doing, then there's going to be no incentive to fix like the on the ground issues that people can't afford shit. The stock market did better than ever. It did rebound very well from like the thing is like the stock. This is a weird thing that is probably something that we'll need to discuss, or the economists will discuss, is that the United States had, like the U.S. stock markets, global stock markets had like 3 major crashes in 2020 that were larger than even the largest crashes of the Great Depression, but they came back in like a few days. Which, like, you know, that's a big thing. Why does the New York stock market still exist as a physical location? Good question, actually. So the Feds dump trillions of dollars in the financial sector. Oh yeah, that is true. Have you ever read Alt America or The Racial Contract? If so, what do you think of them? I haven't read those books. Regarding 2016 to 2020, is it over? Haha. No. It has just begun. Just chapter 2. Here we go. You be a socialist long enough. You socialist long enough, you realize that this is a fight that's been going on for like most of human history. Or at least the last, like, you know, few centuries. You're glad that I care about identity politics? Thank you. I appreciate it. It's it really bugs me that this is like a thing that we have to talk about, that we're getting into like, hey, maybe, because like the thing is like, to do a Marxist analysis of our economy right now, the largest you know sector of the modern neoliberal kind of post-industrial economy is the service sector. You look in you look in Canada, you look in the United States, the service sector economy and the working class today is much more diverse, and because of discrepancies in pay, is made up of way more people who are part of people who are socially marginalized, like trans people, people of color, women, LGBTQ plus people, indigenous people, like all of these different identities, through capitalist logic, can be used to what's called hyper exploit their labor, which means that because society deems their lives less valuable than, you know, the base white male life, then they can actually have their exploitation driven up even more. And to say like to think that we can have like a workers movement that is that's not woke, so it can, like, you know, it's cool with people using racial slurs and bigotry and all that kind of stuff, is to basically take, you know, a huge chunk of the working class and say, we don't need you. We're fine with threatening you and making you feel uncomfortable, because my brain is based on the 1950s and thinks that the entire working class is made up of white men, when, like, this hasn't been true for like 50 years. And even then it wasn't true. And racism was one of the number one things that effectively in the United States was used to kill its labor movement. And if we don't learn to move past the ways that the ruling class uses racism and sexism and homophobia to divide us, we're not going to be able to make any gains. And so, what people call woke scolding is fairly often telling people, hey, we're supposed to be a movement of people where we all respect each other's humanity and right to exist. So maybe using slurs or trying to deny the humanity of people is not a great way to build worker solidarity there, comrade. No, I won't lie that there is definitely a like a snowball effect in which things can go out of control, and that that's a thing that's an aspect of the way that humans interact socially and how social media really doesn't handle that very well. But that doesn't just because somebody started a weird hate mob doesn't mean that that the criticism was invalid. And yes, there's a kitty here. This is Phoebe. Hey, Phoebes. Yeah, hi. It's a kitty moment. In the case of service economy, should we listen to Paul Mason's Post-Capitalism then? I read that book last year, or 2 years ago. I should probably read it again, because I have forgotten a lot of its arguments. All right, where are we? Just going to start back at the top here. Do you know anything about anarchist theater groups? I asked because I was in a performing arts group where our final show had no leadership due to some BS from our program head. The production was a hot mess that only got saved at the last minute, but it made me wonder how a non-hierarchical theater production would work. I'm sure ours didn't work from a lack of commitment than planning. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been in theater, so I don't really know anything about that. Do you think Howard Dean would have beat Bush in 2004? Could have. John Kerry was a fairly weak candidate, and people were pretty pissed off at George Bush, so I could have seen that happening. How do you feel about the phrase defund the police? Good idea, bad optics. It's a fine compromise position. I would prefer abolish the police, but I guess defund the police is a bit more, it's one that people can more get behind. It's more technocratic, I guess. I think it's a bit too much of a scapegoat, or too much of a compromise, but that's just me. I know that I'm not the person branding, so just defund the police is the safe middle position, I guess. It's a real winner with working people. Yeah, working people, lovers of the police. Speaking of dividing the working class, come on. It's like literally the police are like the fucking stormtroopers of the ruling class. Like, get away from me with that shit. You're the kind of person who would be like, what's it called? The kind of person who sees all of the brutal violence against black people in America done by police and thinks that if they were just called the people's police, then it's fine. Like, the thing is that, like, the police budgets in the United States are so fucking bloated that, like, sometimes they're like 45-50% of a city's entire discretionary budget, and basically is an occupying army of the country. They have military stuff. They have like they're just like violent, like they are the violent suppressors of people. Like, I don't know, like, I thought you said abolish. Yeah, the police are an occupying army of the people of a regional area by its government. If you're like, what's it called? I would definitely be for abolishing the. I would definitely be against abolishing the cities having entire sectors dedicated to having people who are there to essentially oppress and instate state control over you. What more you want? I'm a fucking anarchist. Do you think the pandemic will kill zombie apocalypse movies for a while now that we know the pandemic is actually very different from the paranoid fantasies of gun nuts? Probably. I have a feeling that, like, I mean, there's gonna be some sort of effect on media. Like, the pandemic is going to long-term result in some kind of media being made. I don't know what it's gonna be like, though. And yeah, but like a lot of like sort of more definitely a lot of stuff that we do about like fiction made about disease and zombies and stuff like that is most definitely going to have to change. I do think that, though, zombie apocalypse movies are not so much about fear of contagion. Typically, they are a fear, like, depending upon who's made them, they're about fear of different things. The most recent ones, though, like, I think that like The Walking Dead, for example, and like the Zack Snyder zombie movies that came out in the 20th century. Like, the Zack Snyder ones are basically about, like, both of them are basically about immigration and about how immigrants are ruining America, and that you need to have, like, people who are armed and ready to fight back. Like, both of them are right-wing power fantasies, but which is so sad because The Walking Dead's graphic novel is so not like that. But yeah. Was MLK a plagiarist? Would not be able to tell you. I haven't heard accusations he's a plagiarist, and given the work he's done, don't particularly care. Plagiarism is like the least of his is like, what's it called? Is a minor thing compared to like the amazing work he did for like human beings. Is Zack Snyder a fascist? I don't know if he is a fascist. I don't think he is. Or at least I think that what he is very xenophobic and very, very much believes in the American military imperial like propaganda, and has some serious issues with Islamophobia. He's very Islamophobic. I haven't seen him have like sort of like that preternatural super nationalism or anything like that, though. A lot of what's it called? The Maggie May Fish series on Zack Snyder has said a lot of pretty interesting things that I think is worth watching if you haven't. From a utilitarian perspective, is cultural genocide less bad than conventional genocide? I kind of dislike the term cultural genocide, not because what it describes is a bad thing, but because it describes suppressing society tradition as nowhere near is just as bad as going out killing everybody in society. Like, I think it's inappropriate to use the term for things. I disagree. Cultural genocide is a useful term because what you are doing is trying to eradicate a culture. And by trying to eradicate a culture, you are, in some ways, eradicating those people in the long term. You're trying to take a culture or ethnic group and make them disappear, which is basically the definition of genocide. Just one is doing it by trying to erase their culture, and one of them is doing it through mass violence. Why do you like Mormons if they feed into white supremacy and dominionist politics? Never said that I like the Mormons. What I said is we should probably stop being pricks to people based on their religion, because I believe in religious freedom, and I believe that people's religious beliefs should are critical parts of their self-identity and should be like, I'm not going to, like, what's it called? I have serious issues with whites. I don't like white supremacy. I don't like Christian dominionism. And I would fight that no matter what religion they were backing. But to then just take that and be like, well, because I don't understand Mormonism, I'm going to say that they are all feeding into this, and that there's no way to reform, that there's nobody who believes in Mormon. All people who are Mormonists are all Christian dominionists and all white supremacists, and therefore I'm just going to attack a religion that's like super important to a whole bunch of people. This is always going to get the hornet's nest. Like, no, you should hate religions. You should, what's it called? We should do something where we cleanse the ethnicities of all the people who follow the bad religions. And it's like, fuck that. I feel like, won't all cultures eventually disappear and merge into one monoculture as in Star Trek Vision on Earth? Maybe. I would, I don't... But I'm not for the, like, you know, overt attempt to destroy all cultures. Their religion was officially white supremacist until 1979. This is true. And I said in my video on Mormons that I think it was a really good thing that they changed that. And also that religions can change all the time. That is a thing. Religions change. Like, I would probably, like, think about what you want me to do. Like, all right, is the better way to talk to Mormons and about Mormonism that, hey, this religious community has some issues when it comes to racism and homophobia, sexism, and maybe this religion should reform, and that we should try and promote people who are trying to have a more egalitarian and friendly religious identity for the Mormon faith. So does that sound like a worse approach than Mormonism is bad? If you're a Mormon, you're stupid. I know that it's an important thing that you were raised with literally since you were born, and that your entire community and family have been in this church for centuries, but it's dumb and bad, and you should feel dumb and bad, and this is going to make you like me, and I'm going to beat you over the head with this idea, with this dominance idea, until you submit and listen to my ideas, because I'm right and you're wrong. And there's nothing you could do about it. Like, and then when they don't listen, and you keep insisting harder, then you're like, well, I guess we're just gonna have to kill all the Mormons. And it's like, fuck that. Like, no. Like, because that's what happened to a lot of them. I don't know if you know, but the Mormons live in Utah because they had to fucking escape the America. They had to fucking escape the United States because people kept trying to kill them. Like, a gradual no, the thing is that religions are not just like simple ideas that you can change if convinced properly. Religion is a thing that is a core part of a person's identity. It's as much as like being a speaker of a language or being of an ethnicity or being like it's pretty deep baked into people's identity. And you know that like just like, you know, yelling at them is not going to is not going to change anything. And if you want to change anything, like trust me, we've had issues in the past of trying to get people to mass leave a religion. It always leads in mass death. And I don't want to do that. Because everyone keeps thinking that you can just very easily like that convince somebody to leave their religion, something that is like very deeply ingrained in their self-concept, their identity, when it's not like that. And when you think like that, you result in things like the genocide of Bosnian Muslims. Like, yeah, it's... What I'm saying is you have to approach it with a little bit more thought than these religions must be purged from the earth. The Xeno must be purged, the Xeno faith. You see why I think that like dominion politics, or like what's it called? Domination politics is like extremely toxic and pushes you to some pretty bad places really fast? Do you know, like, when I did my... I know I'm over time, but when I did my video about Mormonism, do you know who reached out to me to make that video? And who I interviewed to get my information for that video on Mormonism? It was a Mormon man and his wife. And they were both anarcho-communists. But were also Mormons. Yeah, I'll just finish on that. Okay. Alrighty, so... I'm going to raid somebody now that I've gotten you all angry. Let's see. Well. Always good to raid the Possum Queen. Anyways, I'll be back tomorrow night to make you all angry all over again. So please take care of yourselves and each other. Be good. Be kind. Be understanding of others. Love beats hate. There you go. There's my win. Peace.